So you're heading to the border. I was just down on the border. My friend Bob Feynman and I developed a tour years ago called Border Crisis Fact and Fiction. As you can see, nothing's changed since we started it 8 years ago. And we took down the Fighting Quail Creek Republicans for the border tour. So we took them down to a Humane Border. We did the Humane Borders water tank. We did some wall action. We did the DeConcini Port. We hung out at Dan Bell's Ranch yesterday and had lunch on the patio, even though it was 43 degrees with 50-mile-per-hour winds, and we did it up yesterday.
That's the way to do it, and I'm glad you do that, and because nothing quite tells the picture as being there. I mean, we're seeing all kinds of pictures and videos, and Henry Cuellar leaked those photos. But when you're there and you can see what it's like, even if you're not seeing apprehensions immediately, it gives you a real straight picture of how vulnerable our border is.
Well, and
good job.
Just listening to Dan Bell, right? That's all you got to do is listen to Dan and tell you about life on that, what's going on. There's everyone wants to. Some people say that there's no sovereignty if you have drug cartels that control major swaths of your land.
That's right.
That's
right. Yeah. In fact, Mexico doesn't really have full sovereignty the way they would like, the way their government would like, because of the cartels, and we don't have it the way our people and our government should want, because of those cartels as well. Because everybody coming across, including commercial vehicles, they are all subject to the cartel. And we don't have control. We don't have operational control of our border.
So, what? I know you're heading down there. What are you going to be doing on the border today?
We're going to be. I'm not going to disclose the location, but we're going to be down there, just checking on general conditions. I talked to the CBP Tucson sector chief yesterday, and they're apprehending 600 a day. What Tucson's getting, which is different than RGV, which is Rio Grande Valley, is we're getting runners still. That's because right now, the agency to that point, and that's where everybody's going through. But we still have 600 a day just in the Tucson sector alone that are being apprehended. So we're going to just check out some of those points and places of activity.
I know that I feel like I know the answer to the question, but I'll just ask it anyway. How are we doing on corona testing of these people coming up through Mexico from Honduras and Guatemala?
Not so good.
I knew you were going to say that. Damn it.
Not so good. I mean, they're doing basically kind of a check, a look-see. If you don't exhibit any signs or symptoms, then they're not going to give you a test. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. They're trying to expand it though and give tests to the kids coming through. But the other thing that's amazing, and this one of our good friends, you and I have a mutual friend that several mutual friends in CBP, but I was told this weeks ago that the number one growth area in the Tucson sector for unaccompanied minors are kids, young men, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And you can put your spin on that as you want, but they're carrying drugs. You got human trafficking, sex trafficking going on, et cetera, right through the Tucson sector. And when you get that age group there, you're going to get some gang members coming in. So
I thought the Biden administration that we have to shut down the world because of asymptomatic spread. So are we saying that as long as they don't have any symptoms, we can let all these people just roll through the state of Arizona because asymptomatic spread doesn't? I don't get it now. I'm confused again, just like our president.
Yeah. He's still asking Ron Klain if they're supposed to continue the presser. So he's not really sure about the asymptomatic spread. But I mean, it's part of the hokum with the CDC guidelines. They change those guidelines almost on an hour by hour basis. And one of them is this is a smart virus, and if the Democrats want to let you in, then it's obvious you don't have virus. And if they want to have walls and screens up around the Capitol. It's clear that the mesh screen will keep out the virus. So they really don't care. They don't care.
So ABC News reported that at I don't know where the Donna facility is. I don't know if that's probably Texas.
It's Texas.
Texas, right? So in a facility that was meant to hold 250 people, they have 3,889 migrants.
Yeah.
Imagine if Trump was president. Well, I mean, they called them Nazis and all that stuff the first time.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's the double standard, hypocrisy. It isn't just in this. We could talk about all the way that they're liars in this sense, but the reality is, Trump never really overcapacitated. He never filled these to overcapacity, but he used the same facilities without modification that the Obama administration set up, and so all of a sudden, it's kids in cages, and he's an evil guy. I will tell you, when I was down in Yuma in May of 2019, it was inhumane. I mean, let's face it. They were overwhelmed. We've got facilities now that are designed for 60, and you've got 150 people here because we just can't move them even in the Tucson sector. But to have 1,700% the overcapacity, and to not condemn that and to keep the media out, wow, it shows the double standard. But these people are far more inhumane, and that's the point. This is not just Biden's border crisis; this is Biden's inhumane border crisis. It's inhumane on a lot of levels, not the least of which is overcrowding in these facilities.
As a radio guy who's been beating up the governor of Arizona over the last 12 months, I have to give him credit for his answer on the border situation when they said, "Oh, isn't it great they're going to name Kamala Harris on point?" And he said she's never given an indication she considers the border a problem or serious threat. It's Biden's intent was to show he's taking this seriously. He's done the opposite. Well, thank you, Doug Ducey.
Yeah, no. He's right. He's right on the money. She's the wrong person for the wrong time for the wrong issue. I mean, look, Kamala Harris is a pro-sanctuary city person. She's a pro-open borders person. She's a pro-catch and release person. She doesn't want anybody to be detained. She doesn't want any kind of border. She's been critical of Border Patrol. She's been critical of ICE. You probably couldn't have picked a worse person to say, we're going to have her manage this overwhelming crisis on the border. Kamala Harris, the worst, the poster child for open borders.
I love it.
Well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe the only worst people would be Ruben Gallegos, Mark Kelly, or Raul Grijalvo. But they would be right there. Maybe, Mike, that's going to be the task force she puts together.
You know, it's interesting. Dan Bell was saying yesterday when someone said, "Hey, how can we help you?" Right, the Quail Creek Republicans, and he's like, "Hey, you got to get the word out. You got to write your congressmen, your senators." And the question came up so he's done a few tours with Kyrsten Sinema, right? But he has never ever seen Mark Kelly, right? And he's like, "Well, it's a shame because his wife was pretty engaged with the border when she was a congressman, but." He told me he's got to work Sinema over to maybe get Kelly to show up. That's where we're at.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember his campaign. I don't know if I thought he was in Biden for that whole campaign. So I'm not surprised he hasn't been down there working with the local ranchers and landowners and businesses.
So as I hang out with a lot of these different, LDs or Republican groups, like I was hanging out yesterday, and your name always comes up as someone who's vocal in defense of what Republicans believe. But I think there's an overwhelming, even though there's a lot of grassroots stuff, I feel like the average Republican out there feels like with all the craziness going on in Washington, there are not enough Republican electeds out there who are speaking up. I mean, yeah, I understand you're outnumbered in the houses of government, in the social, but why they're feeling like there's just not enough Republicans out there going, like, really just pissed off, saying, "What are we doing?" Is that a misperception?
Well, to some extent, maybe, because I mean, everybody's talking in their own district. I got to believe, I got to hope, but the reality is, because when we look at this, I'll just tell you, 2 weeks ago, I stood up in our conference and I laid out the context of what's gone on since the Democrats have taken over. I mean, you could talk about the attack on the First Amendment, attack on the Second Amendment, the attack on election integrity and to actually enshrine cheating in elections. You could talk about the reform of police bill where they want to defund police. They want to take away qualified immunity and basically emasculate local police forces. You could talk about the reckless foreign policy. You could talk about the Green New Deal. You could talk about the basically revision of our immigration policies that have produced the surge. And you see the hard turn to the left that we have, not to mention even the $2 trillion COVID package that's horrible. And I said, they changed the rules of the House. We're going to stand up. I said, the Freedom Caucus is going to stand up and we're going to contest every procedural rule that the Democrats go forward so that we delay them, we slow them down. So maybe instead of over a period of time, instead of getting 100 bad bills out, they can only get 60 bad bills out. And then we're going to go out, and the second thing we're going to do is we're going to create this narrative around the country so everybody can understand. They will understand what we're doing, they'll understand why we're doing it, and they will understand what the Democrats are doing and why we can't let them stand. And you know what?
Yes, sir.
I got castigated. I got castigated by Republicans and in Congress. And then the next day, Mitch McConnell comes out and says, we're going to have to stand up on the procedures. We're going to have to fight on the procedures because the Democrats have gone crazy. And so it's odd to say that Mitch McConnell and I are on the same page on that, but there are a few things you can do that you can do policy-wise. You can't do much because they control it. But procedurally, you can throw the speed sticks down, and then you can get out and let the American people know what you're doing. And that's what the Freedom Caucus is trying to do.